Hey everybody,
Welcome back.
welcome back to Our
Our
Odd
Odd
Pod
Podcast,
podcast.
a podcast dedicated to the odd, the macabre, and everything else in between.
And everything in between. What's up? It's me, Billy.
It's me, Billy.
You're not Billy.
Oh,
How's it going? Not Billy.
good, Billy. Actually, this week feels a lot better than last week.
Yeah, we're a little closer to a answer.
I'm just saying.
I'm
Things
just
feel a
saying.
little bit lighter. The world seems a little bit brighter.
Things seem a little bit lighter. The world seems a little bit brighter. Welcome to Our Odd Pod podcast, a podcast dedicated to Felicia's constant rhyming of words.
My future poetry career.
My future poetry career. Yeah.
You can't tell me you're not feeling better about this week.
You know what? I feel better.
No, you don't feel better?
I feel better, yes.
All I'm saying is I literally danced when I was at work on Saturday. Not giving any reasons as to why, but
But there was dancing.
there was dancing involved. There was lots of smiles. I even hip checked somebody.
I heard there were high fives.
High fives were given in this day and age. Highly risky.
Highly risky. Has it really only been 2 minutes since we started talking?
It feels like it's been hours.
Feels like it's been forever. Anything you want to talk about? Anything going on this week or special events?
Special events.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Thanksgiving's coming up.
Yay, Thanksgiving.
Survived a big day at work.
Ooh, you know what? No Black Friday this year. It's all online.
No Black Friday this year. That's amazing.
That is amazing. I'm excited. Can you hear me?
No. Thank you.
Could you hear that?
I don't like that.
That was me taking a big old sip of my double beautiful cold brew.
Wow.
That's when I cut the uncut cold brew
With
with
cold
cold
brew.
brew and also water, but mostly cold brew. It's just cold brew all the way down.
Just asking for a...
Kidney stone?
Yeah.
It's okay. It's a long time coming. So, I guess I could talk about what
Wait,
I'm gonna...
hold on. We're talking about aliens this week, right?
I mean, there are aliens mentioned, yes.
Okay.
Why?
Just wondering.
Did you stop me from saying what we were talking about this week
I
so you
wanted to
could
guess.
ask?
I wanted to guess.
Well, you're not wrong. We are.
Which means I'm right.
You're not 100% right. If this were a test, you would get like a low B or a high C. Actually, you know what? It might be a little higher than that. I think I'm taking a little bit away from you.
I'm prepared to be average.
This week we are talking about the Men in Black,
Ooh.
and not the awesome movie.
Which is probably a good thing, because I haven't seen it.
Really?
Nope.
We're gonna have to change that.
And I've seen bits and pieces and I've been on the Men in Black ride at Universal Studios.
You know, that's the movie that launched Will Smith into superstardom. So,
I know Will Smith from his musical career.
do you though? Are you sure that's where you know him from? Because his musical career, I mean,
Did not care about Will Smith
You
until
were
I
like-
heard him on the radio.
I didn't think people remembered things that far back, because I'm pretty sure you were a baby during his musical career, because I was a child.
Yeah, I'm just talking about his later music career.
Like when he
Came
wrote
out with
such hit songs as "Here Come the Men in Black,"
No.
or when he took us to the Wild Wild West with Cisco.
No.
Yeah, from the Thong Song.
Oh my goodness.
They made a song together. Will Smith was big on making music, making songs for his own movies. I don't know if you ever noticed that.
We came out with an album while I was in my musical enlightenment, and it was
Musical
called,
virginity.
Yeah, it was called Switch, and I just love that song, and that's the only reason why I care about Will
Oh,
Smith.
I don't think I've ever heard that song.
Oh, we should listen to it.
All right, we'll listen to it. Maybe after this. So I have titled this week's episode.
You've already titled it?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's titled "Here Come the Men in Black." So yeah, I guess we can get started.
Let's do it.
I'm gonna start it like I do every time I start it. Who are the Men in Black?
There are men that wear black.
Yes, mostly right. In
I feel like, without like making fun of things, I feel like I know a little bit about the Men in Black.
yeah.
Yes.
I mean, most of it's right in the name. Yeah, you got to respect a moniker that just really lays it out for you, you know?
Well, it's like they didn't name themselves, right?
I don't think they show up and
This is
go,
what like
"Hello,
conspiracy.
we're the Men in Black."
This is what conspiracy theorists like call them.
Yeah,
It's a
because
conspiracy, right?
I guess it just depends on who you ask. Like, people who believe conspiracies never think it's a conspiracy, right?
Right. Okay. Well. Okay. Go.
So, who are the Men in Black? In pop culture, the Men in Black are mysterious men, or supposedly men anyway, wearing black suits that show up and harass poor innocent UFOlogists. Yes, that is a term I have recently discovered.
UFologists.
Here it is. Here's the thing. It's UFO
Dash.
LOGISTS. So is it ufologist? Is it UFOlogist? Is it ufologist? As much as I want it to be ufologist, it's definitely not ufologist.
UFologist.
So do you think it's ufologist or do you think it's UFOlogist?
UFologist. It has to be.
All right, we'll just call it something. Each time that word comes up, I'll say it a different way. And then we're bound to be right. In my notes here in bold, it says briefly discuss the pronunciation of ufologist.
Just check that off.
So we're going to tick that box because we did it. Now, apparently they don't always just harass the people they encounter. There have been stories of, yes, harassment, but also threats and even assassination. The Men in Black are fairly prominent figures in the realm of UFO lore. Somewhere around the 1950s and 60s, ufologists began to fear that they would be the subject of some sort of retaliation for discovering, quote, the truth about UFOs. But UFO sightings predate this time period by a lot.
So UFO sightings came before the Men in Black.
Like a long time before.
Okay. Well,
Before cameras, before the internet, before a lot.
But aren't like UFOs like featured in a lot of Renaissance paintings? I'm fairly certain there is a UFO in the Mona Lisa.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I haven't looked that close. But they do pop up in like art from different time periods. And in fact, like without getting completely into ancient alien theory, there's a ancient Indian book where they describe the gods battling with weapons that are like very akin to nuclear bombs and moving around in ships that could be like thought of as either planes or spaceships.
So we're like moving like parallel with aliens in this.
I guess so, yeah. The book is called the Mahabharata.
Yeah.
They talk about the gods using weapons that like left the land devastated. No crops would grow there. The people who lived in the area died from disease afterwards. Anyway, we're not talking about ancient aliens.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Like radiation or something.
Yeah, like radiation poisoning, like fallout. So that's pretty interesting.
Sorry
I don't know.
to derail you.
It's okay. My actual goal is to derail you like every time we do a thing, so it's fine. Bring it on. So these types of theories have predated by a lot, and I haven't read this book. All I know is like very small snippets that I've read about it and things I've watched on like documentaries, quote unquote. So if you're like some kind of scholar of, ancient Indian religion,
The alien,
and for some fucking reason you're listening to this podcast and you're like, well, actually the translation is this, and so just save it.
Well, first of all, welcome.
Yeah, first of all, welcome. Second of all, just save it. Actually, you know what? Tell me, because I want to know. Anyway, we're going to go back to one of the, if not the earliest UFO sighting in the United States. Well, it wasn't the United States at the time.
Ooh.
But yeah. March 1st, 1639, Puritan lawyer and leading figure of the Massachusetts Bay Colony, John Winthrop,
Ooh, big shot.
made a pretty strange entry into his journal. So Johnny Boy wrote about a guy named James Everell. Earlier that year, James and two of his homeboys were rowing a boat through some swampy offshoot of the Charles River.
Okay.
Pay attention to that because it's a guy and two of his friends in a boat, okay? Just keep that in mind.
Are they wearing black?
No, just keep
Not
it in
yet.
mind
Okay,
moving
okay,
forward.
Okay, sorry.
It was here that they saw a great light in the sky. Winthrop wrote, "When it stood still, it flamed up and was about 3 yards square. When it ran, it was contracted into the figure of a swine. Diverse other credible sources saw the same light after about the same place. Over the course of a few hours, the light swiftly traveled between the boatmen and the village of Charleston, which was about 2 miles away.
Okay.
When the light finally faded, the Puritans in the boat were shocked to find themselves a mile upstream,
Shooketh.
as if they had been transported.
It's like
And
abducted.
They're a mile upstream against the current. So none of them had any memory of rowing
Oh,
against the
weird,
tide,
'cause
right?
you would definitely remember that.
Yeah, been there, done that, it sucks. Some people think they could have been carried by the wind
Upstream.
in a boat that doesn't have a sail. Yeah. And then there's something called a reverse tidal flow that some people say may be responsible.
Isn't that what's happened before, though?
I'm not really sure like
Like
what
there was
that
like an
is.
earthquake, or an earthquake, and then like the Mississippi started flowing the other way.
I don't know. I have no idea about that. Is that like an Alabama history thing?
Oh, no, I don't know.
I'm just curious because like I was not paying attention that day if we talked about it.
Maybe not the Mississippi. Maybe the Nile.
I don't know. All I know is that it's called a reverse tidal flow, and the name suggests to me
Amazon. I don't know.
that the water was flowing in the wrong
Okay.
direction.
It's not the first time I've heard of that happening.
Well, if people are gonna attribute this to it, it must be something that does happen, right? However, in their book, Wonders in the Sky, Unexplained Aerial Objects from Antiquity to Modern Times, Jacques Vallée and Chris Aubeck write, the mysterious repositioning of the boat could suggest that they were unaware of part of their experience. Like, no shit, right? Some researchers would interpret this as a possible alien abduction if it happened today.
Okay.
Which, I guess they're right. Fair enough.
I'll allow it.
I will say this, though. They have no memory of rowing against the tide. So the mysterious repositioning of the boat could suggest that they were unaware of part of their experience.
What if they'd just
Like,
been
no
like
shit.
drinking a lot and they thought it'd be really funny to carry their boat?
Maybe. The problem is it was in 1639, so it's like we can't just call them up and ask, you know?
Not a whole lot of documentation going on. No Facebook check-ins.
Also, it's possible that this light was caused by something called an ignis fatuus. This is a pale light that can appear over marshlands due to the combustion of gas from organic matter.
So it's just like a itty-bitty flame.
It's like a light that kind of drifts along the ground.
Bioluminescent germs.
Kinda.
Mm.
This seems unlikely, though, because the light that was reported wasn't rising from the swamp so much as it was shooting across the sky.
Okay.
Now, if you thought this was the last report of a UFO in ye old pre-America, then you would be wrong. Because in January of 1644, January 18th, 1644,
It's like 4 years later.
once again, John Winthrop wrote,
Why is it only happening to this one guy?
I guess he's the only person that thinking to write it down. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Didn't think about that.
Maybe he's one of the few people that can actually write in the Massachusetts Bay Colony.
Well, that's completely fair.
About midnight, three men in a boat, right? Anyway, about midnight, 3 men coming in a boat to Boston saw 2 lights arise out of the water near the north point of the town cove, in form like a man, and went at a small distance to the town, and so to the south point, and there vanished away.
He's describing aliens as like little orbs of light.
To be fair, at this point, no one's saying aliens. They're just talking about weird lights in the sky.
Okay.
Because they're 1600s Puritans, and they don't fucking know what
I think they were like
They probably have no concept of like,
seeing ghosts.
hang in there. A week later, he again dear diaried about an unexplained celestial event over Boston Harbor. He wrote, "A light, like the moon, arose over the northeast point in Boston and met the former of Noddle's, I could be saying that wrong, Noddle's Island, and there they closed in one, and then parted, and closed and parted divers times, and so went over the hill in the island and vanished. Sometimes they shot out flames, and sometimes sparkles. This was about 8 of the clock in the evening, and was seen by many. About the same time a voice was heard upon the water between Boston and Dorchester, calling out in a most dreadful manner, 'Boy, boy, come away, come away,' and it suddenly shifted from one place to another a great distance, about 20 times. It was heard by divers godly persons. About 14 days after, the same voice in the same dreadful manner was heard by others on the other side of the town towards Noddle's Island." Now, John Winthrop obviously did not think these events had anything to do with aliens. At least, I'm pretty sure he didn't. The next part isn't...
Did he have like an idea of what it was?
He did.
Or he had like his own guess?
He did indeed.
Oh, okay.
And this next part is his guess, which it's not super relevant to the topic, but given the nature of our show, I think it would be a huge mistake to leave it out.
Well, let's hear it.
Because the governor noted that the most recent of strange events had occurred near the site of an explosion.
Oh.
Months earlier, a sailor aboard a vessel had accidentally ignited some gunpowder, and the resulting blast killed 5 crew members. Rescuers had recovered the bodies of all the victims except for the man who had apparently been responsible for the explosion. Notably, this man was a sailor who had claimed to possess the ability to speak with the dead. He was also suspected to have murdered his master in Virginia.
Ooh, so ghost.
Winthrop seemed to think that the devil had taken possession of the man's body, and it was the voice of his ghost that had accompanied the strange celestial lights from that night.
So would this be like the first documentation of like ghost?
I do not know. That's a good question. I'm willing to bet not.
I mean, like, probably not, but like maybe in America? Like, what was it, 1644? 43?
1644. Maybe. But I don't know, because, like, the Puritans were here. I think the Spanish came before. And I feel like they probably would have encountered more superstition.
Okay.
I don't know.
I'm going to look it up.
Let's look it up. Right now. No, I'm kidding.
My phone's charging.
So, again, not super relevant to the alien bits of this episode, but I absolutely think this explanation fits into the theme of odd, macabre, and everything in between that we
I'm here for it.
try to keep alive on this podcast.
All 9 episodes.
So I know what you're thinking.
Do you?
Actually, I don't know what you're thinking, but I'm going to say that I do as a tool to progress the podcast forward.
Okay.
So as I was saying, I know what you're thinking. Billy, it's really cool that unexplained celestial events have been reported for so long in this country.
Wow, that's exactly what I was thinking.
But why did the ufologists only start to get paranoid about attempts to suppress their knowledge?
Tell me why.
Well, I'm glad that you totally asked that in our pretend conversation. This is thanks to a fella named Harold Dahl. Not to be confused with Harold the Doll.
Ugh.
So,
Do you know about Harold the Doll?
we watched a movie about Harold the Doll. I need you to calm down.
That was Harold.
That was Harold. Yeah, remember we watched that awesome, totally realistic movie about Harold the Doll?
That's not about Harold the Doll.
Well, the doll's name in the movie was Harold, and the name of the movie was Harold the Doll.
Anyway.
So explain that to me, Felicia Bones. I'm waiting. So Harold's story is quite possibly the origin of the Men in Black lore.
Okay.
I was going to say mythology or reportings, but lore seems more belief neutral, right? Anyway, June 27th, 1947.
We're only 3 years later.
What?
Oh, never mind.
June 27th, 1947.
I was like, wow, it's only 3 years.
A man, a dog, a boat. Oh, and there's also a boy there. Harold was on
casually a boy there.
Harold was on a boat gathering logs near the eastern shore of Washington's Maury Island, and he was not the father. Just kidding. I'm pretty sure he was the father. Otherwise, we're going to need to discuss the boy on the boat, right? No, I'm just kidding. It was his son, Charles. As the story goes, 6 donut-shaped thingamabobs appeared in the sky.
Do they really describe it as thingamabobs?
Totally. No, that's me. I described them as thingamabobs.
Okay.
And they appeared in the sky, hovering about a half a mile above his boat. It wasn't long before one of them fell about 1,500 feet, raining metallic debris onto the occupants of the boat.
Okay. It's not like glitter?
No, like metal, pieces of metal.
That's
Some of the
exciting.
debris hit the boy and the dog, who sadly did not survive the ordeal. The dog, I mean. The boy was fine. He just broke his arm.
I don't care about the boy.
But the doggy died. Now,
Don't like that.
Mr. Harold Dahl was able to take some pictures of the UFOs.
He just so happened to have like a camera on him.
I don't know what the fuck he was doing out there.
It's 1940.
This is probably the time I should put out a spoiler that I put this together in like a day?
Yeah, last night. Weren't
and
cameras like 600 pounds?
And a little bit this morning. Yeah, I imagine that in 1947 cameras were huge.
Okay, but I'll allow it. Maybe Polaroid?
Maybe not, though. You know what? Maybe we'll have to look it up. Now, Mr. Harold, like I said, was able to take some pictures of the UFOs with his camera, which I can only imagine with it being 1947, that, like we said, the camera was fucking huge. But, as always, I could be wrong. He is on a boat.
Okay.
With the camera. What's he doing with the camera on the boat? I'm just saying, I don't think they're really collecting logs. There's a book about this. I'm going to have to read it. To me, the timeline in this story is a little weird.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if Dahl developed his own pictures or what the deal was, but he was later able to show the footage he had taken to his supervisor, a guy named Fred Chrisman.
It's not like you can go down to the Walgreens and get it printed out in an hour.
Right. And apparently...
I'm calling shenanigans.
I'm calling shenanigans. Also, remember the name Fred Chrisman. And if there's any, conspiracy theorists out there right now, they just heard that name and they're like, oh shit, Fred Chrisman. So apparently Fred was skeptical. Mm-hmm. We'll talk more about Fred in a minute. But for now, apparently he was skeptical. So he went back to the scene where he himself saw some kind of strange aircraft with his very own allegedly doubtful eyes. This is why I think the timeline's weird, because he took the pictures, he showed the pictures to Fred, and then apparently the next morning, Dahl alleges that he was visited by a man in a black suit. Now an appropriate pause for gasping.
Wait.
A man in black, you
Forgot
say?
how to gasp for a second. I breathed out.
Now an appropriate pause for gasping.
I went...
Yes, a man in black. This is why it's weird, because he took the pictures the same day he supposedly showed the pictures to Fred, and then the next day, this dude shows up.
I don't believe that.
So somehow
I'm gonna Google it later, and it's gonna be like, 1 hour printing was totally a thing.
As far as I know, this story's a little,
Okay.
there's some hoaxy vibes, obviously. But anyway, somehow they ended up at a local diner.
A diner.
Harold and the man in black ended up at a diner. This is how I imagine it going, okay? Who's there? Man in black. Oh, hey, how can I help you? Well, I was here to threaten you about seeing some alien shit, but I'm also really hungry. You cool if we do this down at the IHOP? Oh, yeah, I fucking love IHOP. Good. Because I find that the loaded French toast really takes the sting out of threats of bodily harm. That's how I imagine it going. So they ended up at this diner.
Not the IHOP.
Probably not the IHOP. Maybe the first IHOP ever.
The Awful Waffle.
Oh, yeah, Awful Waffle. Is that Salute Your Shorts? Remember that show? Mm-mm. Where'd you hear Awful Waffle? Oh, the Waffle House. That's what they call it, isn't it? Awful Waffle was a thing on this show where they would, smear syrup on somebody and then smush it with a tennis racket.
Ew.
It was like a show about the summer camp. called Salute Your Shorts. It's awesome. You should check it out. Anyway.
I was talking about Waffle House. Home of the awful waffle.
You mean where we had, was it Christmas dinner? Thanksgiving dinner that one time?
Thanksgiving dinner.
Thank you, Waffle House, for having so many family memories. Lost my place. Oh, right. So
Derailed.
Yeah. So they end up at this diner, and I can only imagine that they are stuffing their faces with some greasy nonsense. But the man in black is able to recount in scary accurate detail everything that had transpired the day before.
This is like within a span of like 48 hours.
Something like that. Even less, like if the story that I read is to be believed.
48 hours to believe that a night had happened.
According to the 1956 book, They Knew Too Much About Flying Saucers, the man said, "What I have said is proof to you that I know a great deal more about this experience of yours than you will want to believe." And then according to Dahl, he was then instructed not to speak of the incident or something bad would happen.
And now we know about it.
I know.
Did something bad happen?
I don't know. I mean, he's probably dead now, so I guess. It's like, if you speak about it, you're going to die of natural causes.
And
many
now
years
everybody
from now.
knows everything, and he's dead. Oh, well.
The men in black are going to come to our house.
How old was he in 1940?
I don't know. Did it say? I don't think it said.
Shenanigans.
We'll look it up later. There's a lot of that. Anyway.
Lots we must look up later.
So, the events of Maury Island are still providing fuel to flames of conspiracy theories. That was a weird inflection that I used. However, a U.S. government investigation deemed it a hoax. Dahl and Chrisman even admitted as much a little later down the road.
I'm calling a hoax on that too. Just because it doesn't, the timeline's too soon. It's too quick.
That's fair, but I will say that in the mind of a conspiracy theorist, that probably has cover-up written all over it, right?
But
the U.S. government deemed it a hoax? Really? The government did that?
Okay, but the guy sees lights. His dog dies.
Mm-hmm.
He's completely unconcerned about the dog and his kid's broken arm. He then, instead of taking care of his child, goes develop film with a camera he just so happened to have on his boat.
Well, again, I don't really know the timeline,
They're making it sound like it happened in an evening.
That's fair.
And then he sleeps at some point, seemingly. Allegedly. Wakes up the next morning, meets this guy at his front door, then go down to the Awful Waffle and get some eggs and hash browns.
Maybe that's why they went to the diner, because he was mad sleepy from not sleeping for a day and a half.
And then what? This guy just threatens him and he's like, cool.
Yeah, apparently.
Shenanigans.
It's fair. That's a fair reaction. And also, but my point is that the government saying doing an investigation and saying it was a hoax. I don't need the government
to tell me that it's a hoax.
And then the people that were threatened not to talk about it also saying it was a hoax. It does still have kind of you could see where conspiracy people would probably still go along with this.
I wish they could just see my face right now because, okay.
She's doing the scrunchy face, unimpressed look.
Okay.
So anyway, on this note, seems like an appropriate time, especially with what you said, to skip back to Mr. Fred Chrisman.
Skip back to him.
Before any of this went down, Chrisman had written to Amazing Stories, which was a science fiction magazine that started in 1926, claiming that he had battled mysterious and evil underground creatures to free himself from a cave in Burma during World War II. Later, he would go on to have some weird ties to the JFK assassination.
When did the LSD experiments go on? That's just what I want to know.
He was subpoenaed to testify against Clay Shaw, who was one of a group of activists accused of being involved with elements of the CIA in the JFK assassination. So his involvement with the whole JFK thing is really weird, and there are a few more branches of the story, but that's not really what we're talking about.
But we should talk about that.
About JFK?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And now we've planted a seed for a future episode.
Water it. Watch it grow.
We're going to water it with cold brew. I'm not sure if writing to science fiction magazines and being wrapped up in weird conspiracy trials makes his alien claim seem more or less believable. But I'm going to judge him as wackadoo.
I was going to say less believable.
Yeah.
I feel like those magazines are catered to the conspiracy theorist.
I believe you are correct.
Score.
And up until this point, we have very briefly mentioned the Men in Black, which is supposed to be the topic. So let's just double back a teeny bit.
Oh yeah, I forgot what the topic was.
Let's just double back a teeny bit and discuss what exactly we know about the Men in Black.
Wait, so hold on, let me.
Okay.
Just so I'm keeping up. We started in 1640. No Men in Black, just lights and aliens. 1940, we have our first encounter. 1944, we have our first encounter with a supposed Men in Black. Man in Black.
I think it was 1947, but yeah, go ahead.
All right. My bad. 1947, we have our first encounter of a man wearing black. Okay?
Yes.
Were they all caught up?
Now we're going to discuss what exactly we know about the Men in Black, which admittedly is not a lot, but I guess that's kind of fitting though, right?
We're going to get into like sightings of the Men in Black.
A few.
Okay, I'm excited.
Like, it should be noted that I haven't included a lot of individual sightings of the Men in Black, but everything that I have on here comes from information gained from people who supposedly saw the Men in Black.
Oh, let's do it. Okay, I'm re-pumped. Let's do this.
So they're probably best known for their portrayal in the fucking outstanding Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones 90s jaunt. Well, it's like a whole string of movies. I think there's like 4 now, right?
And 1 Universal ride.
And I'm also pretty sure it was a comic book before that. Anyway, the movie shows the Men in Black as a sort of benevolent quasi-government agency that's keeping an eye on alien activity on Earth, as well as protecting the planet from extraterrestrial threats.
Mm-hmm.
But stories of, quote, real-life Men in Black encounters,
which is what I'm interested in,
like the one we discussed earlier, tend to be a bit more frightening. They always involve a menacing presence sent to terrify witnesses, and they seem to have a pretty high success rate.
Yeah.
Or do they? Because we've heard about them, right? Often people...
Do you think there's like more and we just haven't heard about them?
Maybe. Often people who encounter these darkly clad specters wait several years before speaking out about the incident.
Okay.
And one thing I found rather interesting was the fact that these encounters often have supernatural undertones.
Okay.
But let's not get ahead of ourselves, though. A typical encounter with the Men in Black usually involves an individual who may or may not be a UFO investigator or ufologist.
Ufologist.
Not long after having had some sort of extraterrestrial or UFO-related encounter, they are approached by mysterious people wearing black suits and sometimes hats.
Do you ever see like their skin?
Do sometimes see their skin. Often their arrival is preceded by phone call. Often their arrival is preceded by phone call. No. Often their arrival is preceded by a phone call or some other cryptic form of communication warning the poor innocent ufologist to stop investigating or discussing whatever it is they are investigating or discussing. Men in Black may or may not offer some kind of official identification. If they do, the names given will be false, attached to organizations that
they
do not
like
actually
a briefcase,
exist.
Right?
Some of them probably carried briefcases.
Okay.
Female Men in Black have...
Wait, there's female ones too?
They have been reported, but they're much rarer.
I didn't know that.
The vehicles they drive and the style of clothes they wear, and even the speech they use can often be anachronistic for the time period.
What is anachronistic?
It's like old-fashioned. So, for example, in 1967, a Mr. Robert Richardson reported that the Men in Black arrived for his encounter with them in a 1953 black Cadillac, which, I mean, like, isn't a huge stretch to be driving a 1950-something in 1967, because, like, people still drive 1950 shit, right?
Still driving 1992 Honda Accords here in 2020.
But still, if the Men in Black showed up here, they'd probably be driving, like, a 1995 Crown Victoria.
It's got 3 hubcaps.
Yeah. My mom used to drive a white Crown Victoria, and everywhere we went, people thought we were the police.
Oh, Sheena.
It was pretty funny.
Just people breaking.
Yeah. During these encounters, the men in black are often aware of personal details and or information about the case that are not public knowledge. Like the guy took photos and then apparently the next day they knew everything about what had happened.
They aided in the development of those photos.
Yeah. Hey, let's develop these photos for you. Now give them to us. Don't talk about it, motherfucker. So yeah, like I said, we mentioned that earlier when they knew exactly what had happened. Ultimately, they are there to suggest the witness or investigator forgets what they saw or discontinues their investigation into whatever. Sometimes violence is implied or even threatened, but contrary to something I believe I mentioned earlier, there do not appear to be any actual cases in which violence was inflicted. So, rewind, I think I said something about assassination.
Yeah.
Yeah, apparently that has never happened.
They just threaten.
If I could just contradict myself for a moment.
We threaten assassination. We don't actually do it.
And that's why you proofread your notes, folks. In 1952, UFO researcher Albert K. Bender alleged that he received the following warning.
Okay.
We have been watching you and your activities. Please be advised to discontinue delving into the mysteries of the universe. We will make an appearance if you disobey.
I don't like that.
Yeah, crazy, right?
So what was his deal? Like, what was he doing?
We talk about that.
Oh, okay.
In a bit.
I'm just getting ahead of myself.
However, there are times that certain materials are confiscated.
They take things?
Yeah. And I believe the first time I ever heard about the Men in Black involved a story where a couple of them showed up to take some tape that a ufologist had made of some UFOs or something to that extent.
Yeah.
He wouldn't give them the material.
And then they killed him.
No. Later, he returned home or to his office, and he found that it had been ransacked. Apparently,
did they get the tapes?
Apparently, in an attempt to locate the withheld material. Yeah.
Did they get them though?
I don't think they did.
Ooh.
It was some like
the Men in Black failed.
Something I watched on TV. I was really young. This is the first time I ever heard of the Men in Black. It was before the movies, even.
Damn.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Damn.
Yeah, I just aged myself a little bit. Some alien conspiracy, something I was watching on TV. Uncle Lee got me into that shit. Like,
hey, Uncle Lee.
Hey, man. He's probably, if he's listening to this episode, he probably is stoked on it.
Losing his mind.
Yeah. Pretty consistently, the Men in Black are noted as having made a very hasty retreat, but they leave behind no sign of their passing, baffling witnesses and leaving them feeling more than a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So it's almost like they were never there.
They never find, like, the weird car or...
Right. And the exact nature of the Men in Black is unknown, but there is some big-time strangeness that surrounds their appearance.
Yeah.
And one thing I read about is that they always show up at weird times.
Yeah.
Like, I think when there's less of a chance of there being other witnesses, maybe, like, slightly inappropriate times they'll show up early in the morning or in the middle of the night, kind of.
So, like, if they ever get, like, caught on camera, you can never see their faces. And
yeah. And many reports emphasize their inhuman appearance and behavior, such as ill-fitting clothes.
I've also heard... I'm sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
They're just being, like, ghostly white. Or, like...
Yeah. A lack of facial features, such as lips, improperly applied makeup, and monotone voices.
Yeah.
So, for example, Dr. Herbert Hopkins described his 1976 encounter with a man in black as follows. This character was as bald as an egg. He didn't even have...
I'm back. I'm sorry.
It's okay. This character was as bald as an egg. He didn't even have eyebrows or eyelashes. It looked like he had smooth plastic skin, like a doll, except that it was a dead white color.
Was he Jeffree Star?
Yes. His lips were a brilliant ruby red, and he spoke in an expressionless, monotone, scanning speech.
Oh.
He constructed no phrases and sentences, just a sequence of words evenly spaced. His voice was completely passive with no inflection or intonation, as if you were hearing it from a machine that could talk. So yes, to the white skin.
Not Jeffree Star.
These strange or supernatural appearances and behaviors led to assumptions that many of these men in black were in fact aliens themselves.
Old egghead.
Old egghead, bald as an egg ass.
Egghead alien.
To be fair, there were also some people who thought they might be robots or some type of other inhuman beings.
Robots.
Even time travelers were offered as an explanation,
But there is like a whole conspiracy about time travelers.
Well, this is my favorite explanation, and it would explain some of the anachronisms.
Okay.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what you were talking about, though. There's some. You seem like you had more
about
to say.
Time travelers?
Yeah.
Oh, there's just like a whole conspiracy theory about time travelers, and that they are like recruited from like childhood to go back and do things. So it would be reasonable if that conspiracy theory is true at all, that maybe a less experienced time traveler wouldn't exactly know how to behave in the time period that they are in.
Yeah. Maybe they're so far in the future, it's like a broader knowledge base of how things actually went in that time period. Like you could get the 50s through the 70s kind of mixed up.
I wish I could remember which theory it is.
Well, see, that's really cool because
Pegasus?
I didn't read about that, but it does make sense because if they were some sort of time travelers recruited to go back in time, it would make sense. Maybe they're trying to keep people from talking about this information that could affect them negatively in the future, right?
I think it's Project Pegasus, but I also think that might be like a Captain Marvel thing.
Maybe. Anyway, I think time travel is a perfectly good theory for Men in Black.
It is Project Pegasus. They think Obama went to Mars as a teen, and that Obama is a time traveler.
Project Pegasus?
Mm-hmm.
Are they like a...
It's a time travel program developed by DARPA in the 1970s, codenamed Project Pegasus.
Okay. So the people who believe in this, are they like far-right weirdos? Like anti-Obama, kind of?
Obama is just a part of it.
I'm just curious.
I'm
just curious what type of weirdo they are. Maybe we'll talk about Project Pegasus in the future.
Project Pegasus. I'm going to let you do that one, though, because it is right up your alley.
I love time travel.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I love time travel. But like I was saying, they could, if they were time travelers, I'm not saying I believe this, obviously, but if they were time travelers, maybe they're going back in time to keep certain knowledge from being leaked too early.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so we've talked about where the idea of Men in Black came from, and we've briefly discussed who or what the Men in Black might be. Now let's discuss the kind of watershed moment that really caused the Men in Black myth to explode onto our, pop culture reality, okay? A full decade after Dahl and Chrisman reported their visit with the Men in Black.
So we're in the 1950s now?
Well, yes. And we're going to talk about the book, They Knew Too Much About Flying Saucers.
It's a very...
pretty much on the nose.
To the imagination.
Right. There's a lot of that going on in this episode. This book was published in 1956 by author Gray Barker. The book told tales of government conspiracy about UFO witnesses being threatened into silence. This is the book that told the story of Albert K. Bender that we quoted before. Bender was a Connecticut-based eccentric and UFO investigator. He headed an... That immediately makes it sound so negative, right? That he was a Connecticut-based eccentric and UFO investigator. So let's just focus on he was
a UFO. Anybody eccentric, it's always kind of like a blasé.
It is kind of negative, right?
The connotation of eccentric, I feel like, is like your uncle who lives in a bell tower. And...
You know about him? No, I'm just kidding. Let's just say Bender was a Connecticut-based UFO investigator, or a ufologist, if you will.
Ufologist.
He headed an organization called the International Flying Saucer Bureau.
How long do you think it took him to come up with that?
I was defending him.
You say that like it was your first time reading that.
It just hits different now that I'm rereading it, because I wasn't reading it out loud. I was just doing some research.
I defended you.
This organization actually had international support and at one point boasted around 600 members.
Ooh, 600.
So not bad. I mean, not bad for 1956.
You know what? I'm going to give it to them.
There's just phone trees and letters and shit. Yeah. Once we get past 600 listeners, we can talk shit about the International Flying Saucer Bureau.
Okay.
So
So if you guys could just share this.
Yeah, share.
Because I'm ready to talk shit.
If you can share this, if we get let's say this, if we get 600 subscribers, we'll make a whole episode just talking shit about the IFSB. That's the whole episode. Anyway, the IFSB was also published a quarterly journal known as Space Review, which, along with Bender's other UFO-related activities, appears to have attracted the attention of the Men in Black in 1952. Ooh. According to Barker's book, a number of strange occurrences preceded Bender's... Okay, so Barker wrote the book, but it's telling Bender's story. Mm-hmm. I just wanted to clarify because it might get a little confusing for listeners because it confused me when I was taking notes. Okay. And I'm not talking down to you guys. I'm just saying it confused me. I had to go back like, who the fuck is Bender? Anyway, according to Barker's book, a number of strange occurrences preceded Bender's first encounter with the Men in Black, and these encounters included sulfurous smells filling his apartment,
egghead,
strange phone calls, health problems, a sensation of being watched, and experiences with hypnosis and levitation. Okay. Bender also reported encountering a man with glowing eyes in a movie theater. Apparently, after an attempt to make contact through a telepathy-based experiment involving other IFSB members failed, yellow mist began to pool in his apartment, and he began to receive telepathic warnings to cease his investigation.
Interesting.
Apparently, the first, quote, true encounter came in July of 1953 when 3 men dressed in black visited Bender at his home. I left out the word black in my notes. I said, when 3 men visited Bender at his home. So Bender described them as looking like clergymen in Homburg-style hats. You know what a Homburg is?
No.
So picture like the late 1950s kind of FBI agent. It's almost like a fedora. But the top kind of goes in, you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Like a G-man, like the G-man look. Mm-hmm. They communicated with him telepathically and basically told him to stop publishing and cease any UFO-related work. Then they confiscated a few copies of Space Review and bounced, leaving behind a trail of yellow smoke.
They only took a few copies?
Yeah.
Like they left
of
some?
Like his magazine. Maybe specific copies had things that were true in it.
Oh. Too bad he didn't keep like a catalog.
It makes me think of the movie. Have you ever seen the movie Conspiracy Theory? Probably not. It was a Mel Gibson movie, and he's a cab driver who's like a big conspiracy theorist, and he always tells like his fares all about his conspiracies and stuff, and he's really paranoid, and like he has all these conspiracies in his house. Uh-huh. Well, at one point, he's telling somebody something, and it turns out to be true. Ooh. And then they come after him because he told the truth, and he has no idea what...
The Men in Black come after him?
No, the government.
Oh.
He doesn't know which one was true, but...
Just because he keeps telling all of them.
But they came after him because he did indeed tell one that was... He figured something out that he didn't realize was...
Oh, okay.
I mean, to him it was true. And
anyway. It's true. But that one was specifically extra true.
Anyway, that one was the extra true one. They came after him, tried to kill him. So apparently Bender was terrified by this encounter.
Reasonably.
3 dudes show up, speak to you through their mind.
Took my magazines.
Take your magazines and leave yellow smoke behind.
Sulfuric gas behind?
Pretty fucking scary.
Not Maybe only did you break into my house, you left.
Don't demons supposedly cause like a sulfurous smell?
Yes.
I could also, again, be thinking of Supernatural.
No, I think that's a thing.
I mean, well, like, it's a thing.
But like,
quote unquote. Because that would mean...
Demons.
That would mean demons were real, you know? Anyway.
They are real?
Because not only was the IFSB shut down...
Oh, sure, just move on.
But the publication of Space Review also ceased. Yes, I'm moving on. The final issue claimed that the truth about UFOs was no longer hidden, but did not offer any elaboration on the claim. Apparently, the fear would not last forever, though. In 1962, Bender and Barker would publish a book together called Flying Saucers and the 3 Men. Ooh, that's...
3 Little Pigs?
That was the other thing that was on the nose. The title of the last book. They knew too much about flying saucers. Not only did the book expand on the Bender story first presented in They Knew Too Much About Flying Saucers, but it detailed a number of other claimed encounters, with one involving alien creatures born from eggs and another that mentioned a trip to Antarctica. We got to read these books.
Yeah.
But why did he break his word and go against the wishes of the Men in Black who visited him?
Because fuck them dudes.
Fuck them aliens.
Fuck them egg-headed asses.
Time travel ass motherfuckers. Sorry, I realized I haven't sworn a whole lot in this episode, so I just wanted to boost up my profanity a little bit. Anyway, Dr. Peter M. Rajewski, PhD, Rajewski, I don't know how to pronounce his name, who also reported having encountered the Men in Black, has claimed that the change of heart may have been psychological drama resulting from a combination of his bizarre interests and the stress his close friends placed on him to reveal his secret.
Okay.
So a lot of people obviously do not believe in the Men in Black, at least not necessarily the incarnation of them reported by UFO enthusiasts, right? Mm-hmm. Obviously, people have encountered FBI agents or individuals from other government agencies for a variety of reasons throughout our history. And depending on the time period or the day or the individual agent, I'm sure some of them wore black suits. So a lot of people think that the MIB reported by ufologists and UFO enthusiasts are a sort of mass delusion or self-fiction, right?
Yeah.
Well,
the mass delusion has come up in my my brain a lot going through this topic.
It comes up in like a few topics, kind of like a thing that nobody actually remembers, but everyone remembers because people are talking about it. Mm-hmm. Like apparently there's some TV show that used to come on and everybody talks about how weird it was and it's like really creepy, but it never really came on.
What show?
Oh man, it's like something Cove, Candy Cove or something. I'm gonna look it up real quick. I think it was a creepypasta that people just sort of started believing.
But it wasn't like a real show?
Candle Cove.
Candle Cove.
It's an online horror story written by Chris Straub, who is a cartoonist that I like, and also one of the players on like a D&D show that I watch. And people just like
they just talk
believe
about
that shit.
Interesting.
So good job, Chris, on that creepypasta, dude. Like people are believing it. Anyway, mass delusion, right? Well, Dr. Rojewicz.
That's like the fourth way you pronounced it.
Dr. Rojewicz, again, who has himself alleged an encounter with the Men in Black, does not accept that particular explanation. He writes, "The challenge to this view as a general interpretation of all Men in Black accounts stems from the fact that reliable witnesses who neither sleep in rooms with artificial bats and spiders nor hang pictures of vampires and werewolves on their walls also report encounters with Men in Black." First of all, I'm feeling a little called out.
I know.
So fuck you, Dr. Rojewicz. But yeah, I have to say that a fair amount of people think that these encounters are bullshit.
Yeah.
Apparently, according to other people in the community, the UFO community, Barker liked to pepper his reality with a heaping helping of fiction and also enjoyed playing pranks on other members of the community. So his credibility is a little sus. Obviously, the possibility that something is a hoax can never be ruled out, especially when discussing things that exist kind of outside of our regular perception of reality.
Like Men in Black.
Right. I'm going to leave it up to you to decide what you think about it, but there you go. That's a very brief overview of the Men in Black and a couple of people who have encountered them.
That's wild.
That's wild.
Wild.
Wow, how's that for a day's worth of work?
I think you did great.
So what do you think? Hoax or
I think
ghost? Just kidding.
I don't think it's good. Maybe ghost there in the beginning. I don't think. Sure, Men in Black.
You think the Men in Black have visited people?
I think they have, but I don't think it's...
Maybe not these people?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think it's probably not alien related.
Interesting. All right.
You think like when like people start to like figure out too much and they think that they might stumble upon something else and the government's like, hey, stop that.
Hey, you stop that.
Just unfortunate that the people that are sent to do it are just unfortunate looking.
Just like they just pick the ugliest people because nobody likes to do field work.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, Uggo,
just like
put a shirt on, button that top button, and go threaten these people.
Well, it's also like the 1950s, right? Isn't like the style to wear suits?
Yeah. And hats.
And hats.
Uh-huh.
And like walk around with a briefcase.
Speaking of time travel, I watched this, like a mini, not a mini series, but like a limited series. and I read a book by Stephen King called 11/22/63. And it's a time travel book where the guy goes back in time to try to stop the assassination of JFK.
Yeah.
And one of the things that the person who told him about, like, the time portal or whatever, like the hole in time, he's like giving him a bunch of instructions because he was dying and he wasn't going to be able to do it. He wanted him to do it because he was younger, right? He's like, you got to get a suit, you got to get a hat and like a haircut and shave or you're going to stick out big time. And when he first goes there, he has long hair, he has a beard, and people are fucking suspicious of him. Like he's some kind of dirty fucking hippie.
Yeah, hippie.
Right. Yeah.
Right before hippies were a thing.
He's got a t-shirt on. People are like, what the fuck are you wearing?
What is a t-shirt? Yeah, no.
So it's pretty cool. It's a good book. It's probably one of my favorites. Anyway, that's all I have about Men in Black and aliens. So, I mean, for now. Anyway.
Sorry.
It's okay. For those of you listening, Felicia just played a little bit of a Will Smith song, which you will not hear.
Ooh, plug that shit in the description.
Plug it in the description. The part where, what is it? The episode where Felicia played part of a song you won't be able to listen to.
Okay, don't do it.
What? Plug what? I don't get what you're saying.
Put the song in it.
Like a link?
Yeah.
Oh. I don't know if we can do that.
Okay, well, don't do it. If you want to know what the song is, just email me.
Well, we talked about it. Anyway, thanks for listening to another episode of our Odd Pod podcast.
I think Felicia's struggling.
Where we also very briefly review copyright laws at the end of the show. Check us out, www.ouroddpodpodcast.com.
We have a banner.
With
all of our stuff on it.
Yeah, like a sidebar. Click that sidebar. We got Spotify links. We got Stitcher links. We got Instagram. We got personal Instagram, Facebook, Twitter.
Email.
DarrenCurtisMusic.com.
He's on there too.
He does our intro and outro. We love him. He never responded to my email, but you know what? He's probably busy.
We are losing it.
But anyway, we're the Boneses, and we are out.